Hello, my name is Loda Cruz, and my individual project is on time management. What's the importance of this goal? So the importance of time management to me is to help me maximize my days. Make sure I'm going to bed at a certain time, making sure I'm waking up at a certain time, so that I can perform throughout the day, so I can be able to do things I like to do, such as self-care or spend time with friends or family. Another thing is to limit distractions. So when I am doing a task, putting away the distractors such as my phone or turning off the TV to help me just narrow in on the task at hand. Another thing is to increase productivity. With those distractions out the way, it would really just help me stay focused on the things that I need to focus on. So the plan and the research. So going forward, I would use the Apple Calendar app, the Apple Focus feature, and the Pomodoro technique all on my iPhone to help me go through my project. More so, I use some articles to help me pick up some strategies and to use those in my project going forward. The first article I used was by Elliot Penning, and his article is called Left to Their Own Devices, College Students' Guilty Pleasure. And his article talks about, how there's a structure in high school and how there's a limited structure in college, because in college you are your own boss. You tell yourself when to when to go to class, you tell yourself when to turn in an assignment. You are your own boss. And so he talks about how in college you have a lot of free time in between classes. For instance, you could have class at 8 a.m. and then you could have class at 3 p.m. So what are you doing within that time? And so he mentions that some people tend to use that time to be on platforms such as social media or watching videos, and he says that many of these individuals lack self-control, which makes them feel guilty looking back at it, because they look and they say, what did I use my time for? I didn't use it effectively. Additionally, another source that I used by Aaron Siney was Work-Life Balance, Keep the Cycle Moving. And his article really talks about, setting up a plan. So, and the first portion of this plan is to define a purpose. What is your purpose? What is your drive? What keeps you moving? What is it that you want? Why do you want to do this? The next part is to prioritize. What are you prioritizing in your life? Are you prioritizing yourself? Are you prioritizing family? Are you prioritizing your phone? Like, what is it that is getting in the way, and what needs to be at the top? Next, he mentions skills and strategies such as setting short and long-term goals, setting priorities and responsibility lists, and also minimizing time wasters such as people, devices, the environment that you're possibly in. What is it that is keeping you away from this goal? And lastly, he talks about reassess and reset. So looking back on what you did, what can you tweak, what can you fix, what can you add, what can you take away, and trying it again. So for week one, I planned out the week. So I used my iPhone and my iPad to add in assignments, commitments that I needed to attend, and I used a color coding system to help me visualize that, because I am a visual learner, and it also just really stands out. I also used an alert system that would alert me a week ahead or 2 days ahead when the assignment was due, and it would also alert me hours before a certain commitment came up. So on these days, I would sit down on Sunday, I would plan out the week, and I would just see what needed to be on my calendar. And so the outcome for this goal was successful. I really had no barriers at all. It really just was a time for me to sit down and reflect and see what I needed to handle. This is just an outline of the calendar, what it looked like. So at the top, you'll see that I had little blocks that had, things that were due on that day. And then on the day, you would see that I would have just, different color blocks showing, what time I would do this, when I needed to go to that. So that's just an outline of that. So week two was to minimize social media usage. So for this week, I used the Apple Focus feature, which would turn on when I was doing certain tasks, such as schoolwork, grading, or in class. For this feature, it would limit app notifications, phone calls, group chat texts. It would limit all that until I turned it off when I was done with my task. Another thing that I used was the setup screen time limit. So for instance, TikTok is an app that I struggle with. So I would set up a 1 hour time limit each day, and my phone would monitor the time, and when the limit was over, it would keep me from opening the app. There was a little barrier with this, however, I did overcome that barrier. I was tempted to turn off the setting at times, but I overcame it. I looked at myself and I said, hey, there's a reason why I'm doing this. So I would say the overall outcome of this goal was successful, and I do appreciate the features that I used to help me succeed in this goal. As I mentioned previously, on the left you can see that this is the personal focus feature that I would turn on when I would do certain tasks, and on the right is just a breakdown of screen time, so it will literally tell you how much you would use an app over throughout the week. So for week 3, I had to incorporate a bedtime. And I used the sleep feature focus, which would automatically turn on at the bedtime that I set it. It would turn on, and then during the time of sleep, it would block out notifications, app alerts. It would only allow phone calls from the people that I set phone calls from. And I found this to be helpful with trying to keep me from staying off my phone. Another thing that I liked was a smart alarm clock, which you would set the time that you would like to go to sleep and the time that you'd like to go to bed. It would help you track how many hours of rest you get each night. I would say the overall outcome for this goal was unfortunately unsuccessful because I am a night owl and I do have FOMO, which is fear of missing out. So sometimes when I knew my friends were over and I knew I should go to bed, I would stay up when I know I needed to go to bed. So going forward, I'd just like to have a little more discipline when it comes to my sleep schedule, and I think that's the only barrier that I had with this goal. So you can see here that on the left, that's the sleep feature focus that would show up on the iPhone, and on the right, that is a smart clock where you would turn the dial to the bedtime you'd like and to the time you wake up. So for week 4, which was the final week of the project, I wanted to implement mandatory study times, and I used the Pomodoro technique, which is 25-minute study session and then a 5-minute break. And you would do this for so many times until you reach a 15-minute break. And this was helpful to help me stay on task and not wander in other ideas or wander on my phone, but to stay on task. I also use my Apple Calendar to implement mandatory study times within my day, so I know, hey, I have to study at 2 o'clock, or I have to go study at 4 o'clock. I also would use the app many times throughout the week and throughout the day. I would say my overall outcome for this goal was successful. I felt like having that app really helped me stay on top of my task, helped me make sure I take breaks, and make sure I'm not just overexerting myself in my work. So as I mentioned previously, this is the app that I use. It's called Emphasis, and this is what the app would look like. It would have a little timer, and then the time would run down, and then you would get your break, and then you'd return back to your study session. So this is an awesome app to use for studying. So the overall success that I would give myself on a rating level would be 4 out of 5 stars. So why would I give myself 4 stars and not 5? Well, this is because I'm not perfect, and there's always room for improvement. But more so because I felt like the one thing that really kept me from being a 5 was not reaching my sleep goal. And that is something that I would like to change and do differently going forward in the next time I do this project. Because I realized that with lack of sleep, it kept me from being able to function throughout the day. So that's a form of discipline that I would really like to push more forward in going forward in my project. Lastly, I would like to just leave you guys with a quote from Stephen Covey. It says, "Time management is a misnomer. The challenge is to manage ourselves." This hit me because during this project, I realized that I do lack self-discipline and self-control. And that's something that I really want to work towards going forward, reassessing and redoing this project. So here I have listed my references. And I thank you for your time and for watching my presentation.